So, as I said, I was one of the lucky people that managed to get out to the land of the Trump last year, Las Vegas, for the Autodesk University event. And I think, as Alistair was talking about, he was in the same meeting I was. During the Autodesk University keynote, and anyone who's been to the Autodesk University, this is what the keynote looks like. There's quite a few people, about 10,500 to sometimes up to 14,000 people at the Autodesk keynote. So yeah, it's a bit rock and rolly. During the keynote, they said, one of the guys got up and said, "I've been told not to say this," which he obviously hadn't, because you wouldn't say it at a keynote if you had. But anyway, I've been told not to say this, but we've got a new thing coming out called Quantum, or we're starting to work on something called Quantum. And I want you all to, anyone who's interested in it, he went through briefly what it is, and I won't spoil it just yet because I'm going to talk about it. Everybody who wants to find anything about it, we're going to, after this keynote, we're going to talk about it in this room downstairs, Autodesk University. Anybody wants to come and talk about it. So he's saying this to a room of 10,000 people. And he had booked a room which was not a lot bigger than this. full of people that want to learn about new technology, want to learn about new process, want to learn about the next exciting thing. So he said that the inevitable happened. Everybody piled into this room, and then there was probably several fire hazards and building codes were broken, and they eventually had to evacuate the room and move everybody into this much larger area, which they eventually did the talking. But I thought it was an incredibly interesting piece of news that they came out with, and hopefully you'll agree with me when I talk about it. So, but before I do that, I wanted to talk about some of the key messages that came out of Autodesk University. And I want to point out my disclaimer. Personal opinion, not an announcement from Autodesk. So I'm going to tell you about some stuff today that I think is about to happen in the Autodesk world, and I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that Autodesk have told us is going to happen, and I'll give you some of my opinion of what I think it all means. But yeah, just don't go off to Autodesk and sort of say, "Why didn't you tell me?" Because it wasn't then I told you. So one of the key messages that came out of Autodesk University was connection. And so Alistair was talking about smart cities a second ago, and it absolutely fits into that way of thinking. The idea is that in the age of Uber, in the age of Google, in the age of the smartphone, in the age of Internet of Things, we're seeing more connection. The age of the age of things working in separate applications from one another are starting to come to an end, which I think is a good thing. And that isn't just a throwaway statement. That you can see it in other industries already. You can see it. Someone was saying to me, "You don't even have to talk to anybody anymore to book a taxi," which you might say is a bad thing, but it's stick an app on the phone. It goes up to the cloud. It comes down to the car. The car knows where to go. The car gets locked in on GPS. The car knows where to be. So it's all acting together, and we're starting to see it in the design industries as well. We're starting to see it in the building environment as well. We're starting to see initiatives and ideas to actually start to connect these systems together. So Quantum is one of those systems. It is one of those systems to actually look at connecting the design world together with one another. So you're going to see a lot more connection between systems. And I'm not talking, notice I'm saying systems, I'm not saying software. Okay? I'm not saying software, I'm talking about the systems that exist within software. So the individual components, the individual workspaces, the individual tools that exist within those softwares actually having connection that goes between those systems. So I'll talk about what that is and how that works in a second, but that's the sort of thing we're starting to see Autodesk work towards. Anybody do programming? Kevin. Len. Honestly, because my daughter's 5 and they've started teaching her how to do programming. It's starting to come through at all levels, and Autodesk are reacting to it, and they're right to react to it. You know, the programming skills bring about the ability to do whatever the hell you want. You know, you don't have to be restrained by what a piece of software, what a software engineer has thought about you having to use this piece of software, like, you know, having to use their interfaces in the way that they've designed it, having to use their technology in the way that they've created it. It's all about hacking now. I go to hackathons, Kevin goes to hackathons, a few of us all go to these things. I mean, it's all about ripping these things apart, putting them back together for another purpose, you know, and programming is a really big part of that. And we're seeing Autodesk move into that world in a very, very big way at the moment. Forge, anyone heard of Forge? Kevin. So Forge is a platform that is starting to underpin all of the Autodesk software. Okay, so you'll start to hear more about it, and if you get people in your environment, in your business that can use it and manipulate it and work with it, it opens up all of the softwares that Autodesk have, and more. So not all of them are connected to Forge yet, but especially the cloud-based stuff, you know, the BIM 360s, all of those sort of things are running on top of Forge. So one of the things that came out of Autodesk University is that BIM 360 Glue, Team, all of those environments will start sitting on top of Forge, which means that they can all be interconnected with one another, going back to that connection theme. They're open API, you can extract things in and out, you can put things in and out, you can connect your software into them. All you need is the programming skills to be able to do it. And that is where it's that's where it's heading. Collaboration is naturally another area where they're going. They've said, you know, who's using 360? Team, Glue, Docs. Yeah, a few of you sort of half hands up, so kind of using it, maybe opened it once or twice. So, you know, they're starting to underpin all of their software with these cloud-based systems, which, you know, like it or lump it, is where things go. We're starting to see more and more solutions actually going on the cloud. So I did a presentation on photogrammetry the other week. We've been working with Capita to use photogrammetry for large site capture, building point clouds out of photos, basically, and capturing large areas. How that's all processed, how that's all handled, how that's all put together is on Autodesk Recap Photo, which is an online cloud system, which sits on top of the Forge platform, which sits on top of the internet. It's very much collaborative now. And, you know, that started to head into the Revit world as well. So we've seen collaboration for Revit C4R come out, which is again sitting on top of that 360 platform and allowing us to put the data through these 360 systems. Now, that's got several advantages. So one of the advantages is that, you know, it's easy to set up. It's low admin. You don't need servers, you don't need high infrastructure, that sort of thing. But it is, that in itself isn't a massive reason to do it. What the big reason is, and what people often miss, is the fact that you're going through the 360 platform, which sits on top of Forge, which means that all of your stuff that you're putting up into the cloud, all your Revit models that you're constantly syncing, will instantly become accessible to these systems that we're talking about, like Quantum and Forge and all these sorts of things. It is their way, it is their mechanism to start getting your information into the place that they need it to be able to connect it into their systems that they're designing. So it's a really key system, and that's my opinion. That's not what Autodesk are saying, but that's where I think they're going. But the you know, the engagement aspect of Autodesk has got a lot better recently. So I'm going to talk about the fact they've started releasing roadmaps. A lot of their presentations and engagements are a lot more open than they previously were. So it's really, really good that they're going that way. This was a really key statement that came from the keynote for me, though, and it's that out of all the things that was said, this is the thing that I really picked up on. We're not creating tools for individuals anymore. We're creating them for teams. So they're not creating Revit for individuals, not creating their systems for individuals anymore. The only way that you're going to be able to fully utilize and to work within these softwares in 10 years' time is by working in a collaborative environment. That's what they think. You know, more connection, more engagement, you know, people working together. The only way you're going to be able to efficiently work is by figuring out the technical solutions to connect your workspaces and systems together.
Over the last 3.5 million years, we've created tools that have in turn helped us create our world. And while those tools have made more and more things possible, they've also defined our aesthetic and limited our imaginations. Until now, if you couldn't draw it, you couldn't fully imagine it. But what if instead of drawing what you already know, you could tell the computer what you want to accomplish? For example, say I want to design a chair. Instead of drawing a chair and then playing with the form, I could instead tell the computer that I wanted a chair that can support this much weight, weigh this much, and cost this much, and produce something based on the material that I've chosen. The computer can then deliver to me thousands, if not millions of design options, all of which meet those criteria. And from those options, I can pick the one design that delivers on the most important criteria. And the one that I select might not even been one that I could have imagined on my own. That's the promise of generative design. But why is it important? It's an entirely new way of doing things, and the benefits are potentially staggering. Unprecedented reductions in costs, development time, material consumption. The sky's the limit. And when we combine generative design with the emergence of new forms of manufacturing like 3D printing, we suddenly have access. Traditional manufacturing methods require you to make massive numbers of something just in order to be profitable. Small designers without access to production resources were simply out of luck. But now we can do a batch run of just one. The stage is being set for the reemergence of local manufacturing. Generative design extends beyond manufacturing. In fact, everything that's designed will be affected, including the built environment. How do you create an ideal floor plan? Can we balance structures for material type, strength, and energy consumption? Generative design promises a way to answer these questions and to create designs that avoid waste and control cost. So all that's great. What does this mean for the designer? Now they will co-create with the technology, choosing the constraints and setting the goals. The software simply determines the most optimized way of achieving those goals. It's going to lead to astounding results. And that's generative design.
So that was another big theme from Autodesk University, and it's not some out there idea either. So anybody who knows how to use Dynamo knows that this has already started to come into Dynamo with packages like Optimal. The generative design process on machine, and also coupled with machine learning as well, which are worth sort of having a look at tentatively at the moment, to sort of things that they might start to do. I've got real applications in architectural fields, in structural engineering fields. People think it's a bit out there, but if I told you that earlier this week I was in Germany working with a client of ours, and we've already started to look at a generative design process to actually optimize their CCTV system design. You know, this is, and actually put the criterion of where the cameras need to be in the room, and actually have the software throw back the options to us, rather than somebody manually trying to figure everything out and place it goes. It saves hours of time, and it usually results in a better result as well. So these are, you know, these generative design ideas and so forth, they're real, and I think it's something you'll start hearing a lot more about from a lot of software companies, Autodesk included, over the next few years. But back to the slightly more now, and we'll talk about Revit. I'm all about the disclaimers today. No one sue me. Okay, so this is from a publicly available roadmap. I'm not telling you anything that isn't out there in the public already, just that a lot of you don't know where to go find it. Who knew in the room that there was a roadmap? Okay, there's a handful of hands going up. So this is, you know, there's nothing here that, if you've read the roadmap, sorry, there's nothing I'm going to tell you that you can't have read on the roadmap. But it's for those of you who haven't seen the roadmap and being able to do it. But what we'll try and say is what my opinions are of it. So one of the things that we're expecting in that Revit, so I've split it out into architecture, but structure and services, but some of them are very much applicable to all the disciplines really. So one of the things that we're expecting is full capability model in 3D. That's going to be very shortly arriving in Revit. Some of it's already started to happen. So, in other words, you know, the whole problem of placing things in 3D and having all the issues of doing it, they're building tools to build the precision to be able to do that within the 3D software. The project browser is going to change. The project browser is going to become a visual browser. So it's going to change from its current hierarchical system, is what we understand. So we'll see that. There'll probably be an option to turn it back again, because there always is. You know, we're seeing new. Who uses dual screen? I imagine that's a good proportion of you. How irritating is it that you have to stretch the interface across both screens? That's now, I think in the next service pack will be gone. It will have full dual screen capability. Real-time clash detection. So in other words, the software will be able to very shortly inform you of clashes as they happen within the model. Okay, so there's some parts of that are there already, and they've been there for a while, like put a door in front of a wall, for example. It tells you there's an interference, but that's going to be extended into piping, ducting, all those sorts of things as well. Okay. Stairs, yeah. Stairs? That's a great tool, isn't it? Stairs. Still won't be perfect, but you know they've improved it. Model it, if you build it on at once, so you've always had multi-story stairs, that's nothing new, but this is an adaptive system that they're building into the software. So if you've got different, you build the rule basically of what the stairs should be, and then it will go and figure out the rest of the routine as it goes up the building. How well it works, it obviously remains to be seen. There will be a much closer linking between Civil 3D and Revit, and this goes back to the key messaging from Autodesk. You know, if you make changes in Civil 3D, we're expecting Revit to react and vice versa. So topographical changes, that sort of thing. There will also be the ability to underlink Navisworks very shortly into Revit as well. So if you've got Navisworks models from different softwares, so obviously at the moment you can link in IFCs and things like that, but Navisworks has got file, you can link in file formats galore, can't it? So you know we'll be able to bring in those additional file formats via the Navisworks formats as well. Bring all the tools into a single platform, so you're probably not surprised to say that the actual complete termination of the free versions is not very far away. The immersive visualization, has anyone used Live yet? VR augmented reality stuff. So it's pretty good. You know, some people argue there's better tools out there, to be honest, but for the costing it is and so forth, it does a pretty good job. But they're actually going to start putting some of that functionality actually into Revit. So rather than you have to go out to an external environment, you can use it in Revit. And the really small one, the ability to use OR in filters rather than of all the things, Kevin, you're excited about. That's the structures. Who's structures in the room? There you go. There's a couple of you. Reinforcement concrete. They've been working on reinforcement concrete for years, but there's more happening. Rebar, adding rebar from freeform objects, which you would have hoped would have been there years ago, but it hasn't. The ability to freeze the rebar design, so in other words, the model can continue to develop, but the rebar design stays as it is. So if it's already on site and has been installed, then it won't change. Concrete bridges, rule-based. So that's quite a good one, actually. Rule-based propagation. So you put in a bunch of, it's almost a generative design solution in some way. You put in the rules and the criteria that you want for the rebar, and instead of you have to go place all the bars yourself, it will go and figure out the optimal system for that rebar in the software for it. Okay, so that might be a useful tool. Clash detection will become to rebar as well, which is actually part of the live system I just mentioned a second ago. There's going to be a big focus on precast, so precast units and so forth. That will get a big focus. Fabrication. Connections, so one-click fabrication, so two beams connecting together, a column and a beam connecting together. There'll be tools in there to make the connections with wizards and so forth that are actually built into the software. So there's always been stuff in the extensions tools and so forth, but this is sort of going to be better integrated into the software and a lot more intuitive, is what we're told. As I say, I haven't seen any of this stuff yet because it's not out yet, but it's this is what we're being told is happening. The steel connections will get an automatic designer as well, so the actual ability to make the steel connections automatically. There will be a structural detailer tool in there with over 100 structural details preloaded that you can use. And they're improving and this again goes back, it is cross-platform, they're making big improvements to the detailing tools in Revit, is what we're told as well. So we don't know what the details of that are yet, so we'll have to see. And much bigger links to 360 Team, so if you use Team to make comments and so forth, you'll be able to see those comments back in Revit very shortly as well. CNC exporter for precast stuff as well, coming to structures as well soon as well. MEP, so they are putting in PID schematical design into as a link into the MEP side of things. So I've only got a couple of MEP people in the room, so who is MEP? So I'm talking to you at the moment. Oh no, there's a couple of you at the back. So they got the PID stuff going in for schematical designs via the Insight 360 tools. They have improved, and again this is cross-platform, but it's particularly relevant to MEP. They have improved the isometric generation in so the way that the systems look. They've put the building types more. They've allowed you to change the building types, but it's still to the American ASHRAE. Equipment. So that's the equipment stuff in the thing. Will not, as I understand it, is no longer be so reliant on actual connections being in the families. You can actually start to manually put the connections onto the units on the fly, so to speak. So if you've got a BIM object that's come from somebody that's sort of added all the connectors on it and stuff like that, or it has incorrect connectors that have got the wrong sizes and stuff like that, you don't have to go into the family to actually go and add those. You can do it in the project environment. There's going to be new system optimization tools, and these look pretty good. So route finding for all the systems, but also because it's going to get the live class detection stuff as well, we're expecting that to work in conjunction with the live class detection systems. So again, we'll hopefully learn more about that as well. They're installing. Did any of the MEP guys use Dalton when it was out on labs? Dalton was about fluid solver. Now I'm not an MEP engineer, so I'm going to bug out at this point. So hopefully if you're into that sort of thing, into fluid design, you'll find that of interest. But that Dalton software is becoming part of Revit very shortly, so watch out for that. So yeah, if you do flow analysis, want to work out flow rates, velocity rates, that kind of thing through a system, there's no longer any need to have the actual physical system model. You don't need to have the piping and the ducting and that sort of thing actually in the system. You can just say these things are connected to one another, and it will work out the flow rates and velocities and so forth without that. Any questions? Yes, sir. Say one more time.
You're kind of based on your CCTV example.
Yeah.
So you fed your data into that soon.
That's the theory. We haven't built it yet, I would say.
No, I mean that's the algorithm is actually for you a couple of options.
So basically, the idea is you tell it the space, for example. So this is the room, this is the volume.
Yeah, but someone I assume is going to take responsibility of the data which is going to happen.
Yeah, so we're building, so with this particular manufacturer, we're currently building a digital catalogue which feeds in all of their, because it's camera design, so it's focal lengths, lens types, all of these sorts of things that are used to calculate the optimization of those types of systems. We'll be putting that criteria into the system and then having it optimize the design, the camera positions, the angle of the positions, that sort of thing. And what it should do is it should feed out hundreds of options, and then it should categorize the options by preference, by what we've given preferences. That's the idea of generative design anyway. So.
Quick things. First one, improving stairs is great, but any mention of railings?
Yes. There was a mention of railings, yeah. Contextual railings becoming part of Revit in the not too distant future. So, I'm not sure how the reason I didn't put it in here, to be honest, was because I'm still trying to understand what they're talking about by saying contextual railings. It's on the roadmap, but there's no other detail. So, have you got a comment?
Yeah, at RTC they discussed it'll work in a similar way to the staircases, where if you have a multi-story railing and a multi-story stair,
right.
Okay. It gives you the ability to override one of them or any of the ones in the set for the multiple stories, and make individual modifications to that particular type or that particular one for that story, and then the rest still remain part of the multi-story.
Hopefully that answers the question. The second question.
mentioned about the link with Navisworks
Yeah.
and the introduction of class detection in Revit. Are you looking to sort of replace the class detection part of Navisworks?
Of Navis, I thought you were going to go the other way then and say they're looking to replace the class detection in Revit because that's awful. But I think it's more likely to go the other way. I think
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Take it out. Because Navisworks looks like it's hardly been developed really over the last few years.
Yeah.
Maybe just replace it with cloud class detection and then.
Well, they've got glue already for cloud class detection, but the again, I don't know the details, so I'm just speculating. But it's but it wouldn't surprise me if the Navisworks Clash engine was become part of Revit. Although that would lower the value of Navisworks as well, because that's their premium. So we'll see what it actually looks like when it comes out. Right, Quantum. So Quantum is a completely research and development piece of software. So don't go look and try and download it tomorrow because you won't find it. It's not out yet, and nor will it probably be out for a little while. Some people are theorising it could be more than 2 years away. However, it's good. It's a good idea to know about it before, because Quantum's not just another bit of software. It is really, it really is a whole sort of mind shift, really, about how we might work. Okay. Again, we don't know if it will work or it won't work, but you know, we'll see. So Quantum, as to quote Autodesk, is the next generation BIM offering system. Okay, not software. Okay, so it learning from Apple, Uber, Google, Amazon, and this IFTT is if that, then that. Has anyone used that? I'm joking. I use it all the time because I'm a geek. But IFTT, so I'll give you an idea what IFTT is. It's Amazon Alexa, you know this thing you can speak to, and it says, you know, you ask it if it's trying to take over the world, and it says not yet, that kind of thing, just to scare you. You know, it's like Siri for the house, really. You know, you've got that, and I've now become the guy from WALL-E, the movie, who sits in the chair getting fat, because I can sit in my armchair at home now, and I can say to Alexa, turn the lights on, and the lights come on. I can say turn the thermostat up, and the thermostat turns itself on, turn on BBC One, and the TV turns itself on and tunes itself to BBC One. Those are all IFTT concepts, if that and that, which is an Internet of Things concept. Okay, so it's so we're starting to see, and I love that kind of thing, because even though I'm a geek, I'm about the technology that just makes life easier. I don't like all this stuff that I don't understand and is really complicated. I like the stuff that just works. So you could call me a technologist. You know, it's about simplifying the complexity. That's what it's about. That's the best way to describe it. You don't know how Alexa interfaced with that system over there, sent the signal to my lights and turned it on. Nor do you care. You know? And you're not supposed to care, that's the idea. It's about simplification, it's about taking away the complexity. That's what Quantum is all about. Quantum is all about taking away the complexity. So it's about simplification of the user experience without dumbing down the function. Okay, so we're not trying to take away the ability here, but it's about just trying to make things easier to do. It's about eroding the interoperability of issues between platforms. It does this through the creation of contracts. Okay. Anybody use Civil 3D in the room? No? The reason you don't use Civil 3D, yeah? You use Revit as well? How do them two talk to one another? Painfully. You have to figure out all sorts of stuff. Anybody use IFC? Try and transfer it from one platform to the other, that sort of thing? I'm not against IFC before anyone shouts at me. But you know, it's complicated, isn't it? You have to export it, you have to understand the data schemes, you have to understand this, you have to understand that. I try and explain to people and they look at me like I've gone nuts. You know, it's difficult to do. So what about an ecosystem that takes all of that complexity away? You just say, I want the topography out of Civil 3D, I want it in Revit. Done. Nothing more complicated than that. Here's the next thing. You not only do you want the topography in Revit, you don't want it to be just an export, you want it when the changes happen to the topography in Civil 3D for the changes to happen in Revit, and not only that, but for that to parametrically react and Revit to be able to update on the back of that change. That's what Quantum's about. It's about building the relationships between the different systems that exist within the platforms. And it's not just Autodesk either. They're building this as an open API system that can be utilized by anybody. So it removes the file transaction. That's what it's about. Removing the file transaction, removing the IC, removing the GBXML export, removing the, all of those complexities that would happen. Making it so that you tell it to turn on the light and the light turns on, you've got no idea how it happened. That's what it's about. So it allows you to connect software together like apps. Okay? And that's a key term, apps. Okay? So you're not connecting the whole software together, you're connecting functions from within those softwares together. So you're connecting the topography system in Civil 3D to the topography system in Revit. You're not connecting Revit and Civil 3D together. That make sense? And basically you can create your own workspaces. That's the idea. You create your own solutions. So these are my thoughts. Looks to be at least 2 years away, to be honest. We've been here before. In 1994, Autodesk came up with IFC. We will likely see, and this is an Internet of Things concept solution, what we call solution recipes. That's what we're likely to start seeing emergence of. So solution recipes are, with IFTT, and I'll show you a couple of examples of IFTT in a second, you can, as a user, so you get this system, and as a user you can say, I'm going to make my lights work Amazon Alexa, but the best thing is you can then publish that system. So if you're a Dynamo user, you're used to this concept because people publish packages. You will be able to publish the system out, and they call that a recipe. So it's this working with this, working with this, working with this, yeah? And you can publish it out for other people to use. We could see the end, and this is a big controversial statement that I'm sure Autodesk might not spot me saying, but we could see the end of boxed softwares in the way that we know them at the moment. We could see things start moving into being much more modular. You buy a structural analysis solution. You don't buy Robot and Revit. You know. So this is IFTT. So everybody can access this. Go on your iPhone. You can download it. It works straight away. It works straight away. It's scary how well it works. You'll find stuff that you already have that will work with IFTT. You won't know how. It's that kind of tool. Open the garage when my BMW enters the driveway. That's the kind of thing that IFTT does. It works with BMW Labs, and it works with an app called Grangio, which works the pulley system on the garage door. And those two things work together. Yeah, and IFTT facilitates that transaction. You've got no idea how it happens. Tell Alexa to lock my doors at night automatically. That works with Alexa, Amazon Hue, Android devices, and the garage door system, all as one transaction. So it's not just two things, it can be lots and lots of things. So there you go, there's an example of, does everyone got access to Dropbox? Everyone got access to their contacts within their phone? So you will immediately think it's for, these smart, these devices that you don't have, but yeah, if you want a backup of your contacts in a Dropbox, use IFTT for that. It works. If you want your Facebook photographs uploaded to Amazon Photo, IFTT will do it automatically for you. So it's about connecting the systems. Yes, sir?
Two things. Firstly, your house sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Right. And secondly, you're talking about all the links in the system in quantum.
Yeah.
Do we know how? Will quantum just do it? And is that what they are alleging?
That's what we're anticipating, yeah. They're basically
bits together.
Exactly. The party line is like Uber, it's like Amazon, it's like IFTTT. The user will not see the complexity. The user will it'll work. There'll be a library, you'll download it, and it'll be done. There'll be people like me who are geeks that will build the solution recipes behind you, and you'll take us all out for a beer the next day, sort of thing. But that's the idea of what this system is about, as far as we can tell. And it's a couple of years away. There's a lot of work to be done with this. It's not replacing Revit. There's been a real worry around, to the point where the AEC magazine recently had to write an entire article to assure people that Revit was safe, okay, and that you're not allowed to use Revit. because it's so good at what it does, or the concept is so good at what it does. People are thinking that box software in the way it's going will disappear and it will all go on the cloud. That might happen in 10 years' time, but it won't happen in 2 years' time. If you want to do further reading on it, the AEC magazine has got a... Does anyone get the AEC magazine? If you don't, start getting it, because it's a fantastic publication. And Martin Day's written an article in there about quantum, and it's about 5 pages long about all the detail of it and stuff like that, which is really good. And it's a really good read, and it's free of charge as well. You just go on the website and read it, or you can subscribe for free to the magazine as well. A couple of last things. InfoWorks. We're going to see InfoWorks evolve. Does anybody use InfoWorks? We've got one person. InfoWorks, what is that? More into an engineering tool. So previously it's been very conceptual design for infrastructure. We're seeing it go into more detailed design. They're adding all sorts of stuff. If anybody wants to read this in detail, just ask me and I'll give you the slide. Other news. Anticipate a lot of discussion over the next couple of years on generative design. There's a project out there called Fractal, which is about generative space optimization, if you're interested in that sort of thing. There's a project called Dreamcatcher, which is about the exploration of shapes and materials within buildings, which is again worth a look at. AutoCAD has now PDF conversion to drawings. That's going to upset some, as I've said there, because one of the things we've all... This is a very British thing, by the way. We think that we issue our drawings in PDF, and we say, well, that's because we don't want anybody else to rip off our drawings. I've never known anyone get sued for that, by the way. So you change someone's drawing, then it's them changing the drawing anyway. It's not your IP at that point anyway. But and in America, they don't get this. You know, in America, they just issue DWGs and stuff like that. The concept of issuing PDFs is crazy. So so the idea of being able to create, convert PDFs back into normal AutoCAD drawings without any fuss is absolutely fine. For us, it's probably scary because it means that that nice protection system that we had is just gone.
That's in, I know this is a Revit group book, that's in AutoCAD 2017, people haven't seen it.
Yeah, that one's already come out, hasn't it? Yeah, it's not as... Leica, anyone do point scanning? Point cloud scanning? Yeah, 2, 3. So scanning's becoming more and more popular. Go and have a look at the BLK 360 by Leica. Fantastic device. It's that big. So you've seen laser scanners that are this high and cost God knows how. This is £30,000, which sounds a lot of money until you see what laser scanners cost. So this costs 30 grand, but it's that big, and you put it on any surface, it levels itself, and you can do a full scan of the room to a ridiculous decimation. So it's distance between the points, and it links directly within Recap, so you can download the point cloud straight away. Fusion's 360 is getting a lot of enhancements as well. Fusion 360 is increasingly being used by object creators, like BIM Objects and Lena. So those of you who don't know, you can create objects now for all the platforms at once, for Revit, ArchiCAD, and all that. Without using IFC, you can use Lena, which is a script. There is increasing rumour, and I'll go back to this comment at the bottom. There's increasing rumour that Revit is being rewritten. Its code underneath is being rewritten to allow for the Fusion engine to be brought in to replace the family editor in Revit. That's the rumour. That was and it's not without qualification. Carl Bass said it in 2015, but it's hasn't materialised yet, so to speak. Forge, lots of updates happening on there. I'll skip over this because I'm aware of time. But in summary, a lot of stuff's happening. Anyway, to be fair, I'm the first to accuse Autodesk of doing F4, but to be fair to them, this year they seem to have got some good stuff. So fingers crossed, lots of good stuff coming elsewhere.